The visa's not a right, it's a privilege. I did it. I was the one that made the decisions. I went through contracts, literally spreadsheets, line by line. I remember being in a hotel, I believe in Guatemala, going through line by line on spreadsheets of contracts that were canceled, contracts that were approved, contracts that were amended. These are all contracts.
So in that case, I'll put the responsibility with you since you're taking credit for it rather than with Elon Musk.
That's false. That's fake. That's just not true. That's a study based on if we canceled every one of these programs permanently. Okay, and I'm reading it right here because I'm glad you brought it up. It assumes a near total freeze in U.S. foreign aid for HIV, AIDS, tuberculosis, malaria, and other diseases. There is not a total freeze. 85% of PEPFAR recipients are receiving their care right now. But the numbers you're saying, those aren't real numbers. I understand that's what the school said in the worst case dramatic scenario. And even then, I think it's exaggerated. But there's just no evidence of the fact that, I don't remember what the numbers are, 100,000 children have starved to death in the last 4 months because the United States made reductions to USAID. Well, that first of all, is pretty atrocious. That would mean that nobody else in the world is doing anything. We're taking care of the entire planet?
Welcome back to Right View Nation, the voice of unapologetic truth in a nation gone soft. If you're tired of the left blaming America for everything, you're in the right place. Today, we're diving headfirst into one of the most disgraceful smear attempts I've seen in years. And surprise, surprise, it came from the radical left in the Senate chamber. Buckle up, patriots. So picture this: Senator Jeff Merkley, a Democrat so far out of touch with reality, he probably thinks socialism is just another word for kindness, launches a disgusting verbal attack on Senator Marco Rubio. And I do mean disgusting. Merkley stood there, self-righteous, smug, and had the audacity to claim that Rubio's decisions have led to the deaths of hundreds of thousands of children. Let that sink in. Not just a policy disagreement, not a critique of logistics, but a direct accusation of mass death. All because Rubio backed trimming bloated USAID contracts that funnel your tax dollars to questionable NGOs across the globe. This is where we are in America now, folks. If you dare to ask, should we be funding endless foreign aid when our own citizens are struggling? You're labeled a murderer by the left. Give me a break. The Democrats love to play God with statistics, throwing around numbers pulled from biased think tanks and ivory tower institutions like the Boston School of Public Health, pretending those projections are gospel truth. They're not. They're political propaganda dressed up as science. Here's what they don't tell you.
Senator Merkley.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And second chance to ask some questions of you today. Thank you for testifying in multiple committees. Back in March, you noted that you had revoked some 300 student visas using the 1952 Immigration and Nationality Act, which specifically says the Secretary of State can revoke a visa if an alien's activity in the U.S. would have a serious adverse foreign policy consequence. And that issue of 300, what's the number up to now? How many visas have you revoked?
I don't know the latest count, but we probably have more to do.
Can you give us an estimate?
Probably in the thousands at this point, depending. Not all of them are under that statute. Some are people. So there's two visa
SEVIS,
revocations.
I don't want to go into SEVIS. It's a separate issue. And
No, they're related, but we can't conflate them because they're two different. One is the one you've decided, national interest of the United States. Some of the visa revocations are happening because somebody violated the terms of their visa. They dropped out of school or they got convicted of a crime or some criminal investigation.
okay.
Those are separate from what you've said.
So 300 in March, but now 1,000. How many under this 1952 Act?
I'd have to
roughly?
get you a good answer, but probably under 1,000. But I'd have to get
Can
you
you
the right
follow
answer.
up and
I don't
get
want
us
to speculate
an
about the
answer?
exact number.
And I'll tell you, this particular thing, it does bother me. And you testified in Louisiana Immigration Court in a pretty expansive interpretation of that 52 law, saying that it could be for citizens, it extends to any non-citizen for past, current, or expected beliefs, statements, or association. And that expected really caught my mind. This power rests solely, this 1950 law rests solely with you. And your interpretation sounds like you're saying if you, the Secretary of State, think you expect someone's beliefs or statements, past, current, or future, then you can toss their visa.
The visa's not a right, it's a privilege.
All right, so I will just say, and then I'm going to go on to another topic. I profoundly disagree. The Fifth Amendment is very powerful in protecting citizens and non-citizens alike with due process. I know this will be adjudicated in court, but the idea that one individual could on their opinion of someone's future activity or expected activity, that one individual, being our Secretary of State, can toss somebody's visa, seems to me an extraordinary violation of due process. I won't ask you to defend it now. I'm happy to put it in writing for you to give us a follow-up and explain it better. But I do think it's a fundamental attack on freedom, because due process is the guardian of the gate to keep a government from taking away people's life or liberty, and liberty is what happens when you take away a visa without due process. I want to turn to the issue my colleagues have mentioned, and that is there is a legal way to restructure the Secretary of State's department and USAID specifically. But what we saw on February 3rd was Elon Musk say, over the weekend, I tossed USAID into the wood chipper. That's a pretty profound weekend. It didn't involve consultation with Congress over the consequences. There was no rewriting of the law. There was no discussion of what funds could be delayed, frozen, redirected. And the result is different groups have estimated how many people have died to date and will die over the course of a year or a prolonged period as a result of the destruction of the weekend of February 1st and 2nd. Did Elon Musk have your support in putting USAID into the wood chipper?
Well, I don't think that's a X post, or what I guess you're imagining a social media post, is not a government act.
Not at all. That's a quote. That's what he said.
Yeah, it's okay. Well, that's what he said, but that's not ultimately what happened as acting director. Is all these decisions
Did
have to
his
come to
actions
me.
have your full support?
The ones that I signed off on, yes, which is the ones that
Of
happened.
what
because
Elon Musk did with USAID?
No, but understand, these are contracts. All these
Did he do it
contracts.
without or with your support? That's what I'm trying to understand.
Well, not
Because
my support, it was my
team,
actions.
his Doge team did a lot of cancellations very, very quickly, and it fired a lot of people. It wasn't clear to me whether that had your
No,
support or not.
the Doge team didn't do anything. I did it. I was the one that made the decisions. I went through contracts, literally spreadsheets, line by line. I remember being in a hotel, I believe in Guatemala, going through line by line on spreadsheets of contracts that were canceled, contracts that were approved, contracts that were amended. These are all contracts.
So in that case, I'll put the responsibility with you, since you're taking credit for it rather than with Elon Musk. But the Boston School of Public Health has a kind of a website where they post their estimated deaths as a result of the actions that were taken to dismantle USAID. And they're updating it continuously. So you go to it, the numbers keep changing. They have a one-year estimate, but they also have what they estimate has happened to today. And as of today, they estimate that the actions taken in putting USAID in the wood chipper, child malnutrition, 53,500 more deaths. And I'm rounding off because the numbers are continuously changing. Child diarrhea, 45,400 more deaths. Child pneumonia, 59,200 more deaths. Malaria, 25,100 more deaths. So what happened that weekend has resulted in the death of hundreds of thousands of children. And the estimate for the end of this year is much, much higher. This happened because the law was not followed for consultation with Congress, analysis, bringing in experts, holding hearings. How do you kind of accept what you just put forward, that it was your action to cancel these contracts? Your contracts in this fashion, freezing fund, firing individuals, has resulted in the death of hundreds of thousands of children.
That's false. That's fake. That's just not true. That's a study based on if we canceled every one of these programs permanently. Okay, and I'm reading it right here because I'm glad you brought it up. It assumes a near total freeze in U.S. foreign aid for HIV, AIDS, tuberculosis, malaria, and other diseases. There is not a total freeze. 85% of PEPFAR recipients are receiving their care right now. But the numbers you're saying, those aren't real numbers. I understand that's what the school said in the worst case dramatic scenario, and even then I think it's exaggerated. But there's just no evidence of the fact that, I don't remember what the numbers are, 100,000 children have starved to death in the last 4 months because the United States made reductions to USAID. Well, that first of all is pretty atrocious. That would mean that nobody else in the world is doing anything. We're taking care of the entire planet?
Well, I must say, I think your response does not fit with what the published results were, but there's other groups that have done this as well. There's a study in Nature with healthcare experts from a whole number of leading universities, and they said basically if you shut down USAID, and it may not be fully shut down, but my colleagues who follow this closely say, you know, it's 80, 90% shut down. And Nature study, or published in Nature, said, look, because of what has happened, we will see some 15 million additional deaths over 15 years just from HIV, producing 14 million orphans, and another 10 million people, children and adults, dying from malnutrition, tuberculosis, diarrhea, malaria, and other diseases. And there's even higher numbers from the Friends of the Global Fight Against AIDS. I think it's this rash shutdown without due process of law, that is not coming and doing it in collaboration with rewriting the law, freezing funds, canceling these contracts without consultation, that you have exacted enormous harm on the world.
Again, those numbers you're saying are staggering and unrealistic. The reality of it is, if what you're saying is that unless the United States funds foreign aid at these levels in perpetuity, the world's going to suffer 15 million deaths in 15 years, and every country should be voting for everything we want at the UN.
The number was 15.
Because we're basically funding and feeding the world.
15 million in the study of Nature, yes, from the shutdown of these programs.
Thank you.
Those studies assume total and permanent freezes of programs, when in reality, 85% of foreign aid recipients are still receiving care. 85%. But Merkley doesn't care about facts. He cares about optics, emotion, and trying to paint any America First policy as genocidal. Rubio, he didn't back down. He didn't grovel or try to appease the mob. He told the truth. Those numbers are fake. That narrative is false. And as he rightly said, if the U.S. doesn't fund these programs forever, the world doesn't end. You'd think Merkley would know this, but no, he prefers moral grandstanding over fiscal responsibility. Let's be clear, patriots. USAID isn't some holy institution. It's a bureaucratic beast stuffed with contracts, consultants, and globalist middlemen who profit while Americans struggle to put food on the table. Why is it radical to say we should reassess our priorities? Why is it controversial to suggest that money meant for HIV treatment in Malawi might also be used to fix the VA hospitals rotting here at home? Senator Rubio sat in a hotel in Guatemala, combing through line-by-line spreadsheets of these contracts. That's called doing the hard work. That's called leadership. And that's exactly what terrifies the left, because it proves that you can put America first and still act with integrity and accountability. Merkley's attack is nothing more than emotional blackmail. You're killing children, he says. The left always resorts to emotionalism when their arguments fall apart. They trot out children, throw in apocalyptic projections, and accuse conservatives of bloodshed just for demanding oversight and constitutional process. Let's not forget, Merkley also attacked Rubio for using the 1952 Immigration and Nationality Act to revoke visas from foreign nationals posing national security threats. He cried about due process for non-citizens who haven't even committed a crime yet, just might believe something dangerous. I got news for you. A visa is not a right. It's a privilege. And if someone's presence in this country poses a threat to our foreign policy, get them out. It's that simple. When did America become the world's ATM? When did we agree to sign a blank check to every NGO, every activist group, every foreign interest with a sob story? And if we ever pause, even briefly, to audit, to reevaluate, we're accused of letting kids die. This is the exact mindset that's destroying the nation. They want you to believe that if we don't foot the bill, the world falls apart. Meanwhile, they won't lift a finger to secure our own border, protect our own kids from fentanyl, or defend our values from cultural rot. Senator Marco Rubio stood tall in the face of outrageous lies, and for that, we salute him here on Right View Nation. This wasn't just a debate. This was a declaration, from the left, that if you don't fund their globalist fantasies, they'll accuse you of crimes against humanity. Well, we say enough. No more fake numbers. No more guilt trips. No more sacrificing America on the altar of international approval. It's time we take care of our own. It's time we demand truth over narrative, facts over feelings, and sovereignty over surrender. If you agree that it's time to put America first, hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment below. Share this video with every patriot who's had enough of the lies. And remember, this is Right View Nation, where the truth still matters and America always comes first. God bless you. God bless our Constitution. And God bless the United States of America.